Hello, and welcome to FedNet TV's Defense Policy Show. I'm your host, Bob Carey. Just recently, President Trump came to the U.S. Capitol building and delivered his first address to a joint session of Congress. In discussing national security, he focused significant time on the southern border and how to best control immigration.
Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever.
You know, I would say by far the biggest priority for me on an issue basis is border security. And from Texas, of course, we're on the front lines of Biden's open borders. And I think that Congress's top priority should be to codify and make permanent all of President Trump's executive orders, but I think particularly related to border security. We have had 10 to 15 plus million illegal aliens pouring into our country over the past 4 years, bringing drugs and crime, murdering, raping, torturing, slaughtering, pillaging the American people. And the Biden administration basically let them run loose. President Trump has secured our border in just 40 days. It's been incredible. Border apprehensions are down 95% from where they were a year ago. And all he did was enforce laws that were already on the books. It didn't require Congress, as we were told for 4 years. It just required a president who actually cared about the American people. But I think that Congress needs to make these border policies that have been so successful permanent by codifying them into law.
You heard the president's commitments tonight and success. I mean, think about this, Bob. We went from, I think one month, 189,000 crossings a month to 8,000 last month. But that's a staggering drop. We have to keep that up. So that 200 million is going to go a long way to building a security system at our southern border. That's a wall, access roads, the automatic telescoping services where you can actually look out and see who's out there with video, all of that, the detection system to let you know when somebody's coming over that wall, so you can then get boots on the ground out there to get them. You know, one of the biggest challenges that we've got on our border, I think a little over a third of it is patrol on horseback. Think about that. So we need, so even when you see it with one of the ATS systems, you can't get to them before they're gone into the interior of the country. So that's going to be very important that it is in the bill for the CR going forward.
Along those lines, just things that he said he was going to do, securing the border. We saw the lowest numbers in February we've seen in 15 years on the border. And so he is delivering on promises. He's a man of his word, and I'm honored and excited to see what he's going to do in the next 3.5 years.
But how do you secure the border without the troops to enforce it? President Trump addressed this by discussing record levels of recruiting across all the armed forces.
I am pleased to report that in January, the U.S. Army had its single best recruiting month in 15 years, and that all armed services are having among the best recruiting results ever in the history of our services. What a difference.
Republicans certainly reacted favorably to this claim, citing morale under President Trump as a significant reason for this uptick in enlistment.
The most exciting thing I think I heard was that the young people are wanting to go into the military again. And so you heard that the Army just had their best recruiting month, well over what they had their target. And so what I want to make sure we do now is that we take care of our military members, but then we also have to take care of our veterans who go into that service, do their time, give their energy, life, and blood to this country. Then we need to take care of them properly.
You know, I think that what President Trump and Pete Hegseth have done has been incredibly effective. You know, we've seen military recruitment go through the roof. You know, I think our troops were demoralized having a commander-in-chief who didn't even know where he was half the time, who didn't appear to actually care about the interests of the American people, cared more about foreign governments, foreign entities, foreigners over American citizens. So I think that returning our government back to first principles and saying, here is why we're here. We are here to benefit the American people is inspiring for our troops. And I'm excited to see President Trump and Secretary Hegseth double down and triple down on that message.
Well, a couple of things. In addition to money, I think the president talks about morale and Pete Hegseth and the job he's doing. We haven't been hitting our recruiting numbers. So it didn't matter if we had the money, if we didn't have the soldiers to implement the war itself or the defense of this nation. And so in addition to just the money and the technology that may be needed on the battlefield to engage the enemy, I think that there's a morale now that's kind of moving in the right direction. People are wanting to join. They're loving this nation. They're proud of this nation. And so that's so important that we have people who are willing to join this volunteer Army and Navy and Marine Corps and Coast Guard, Air Force too.
After doubling down that the official policy of the United States government is that there are only two genders, male and female, President Trump continued with his discussion of eliminating all diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the United States government.
Because we're getting wokeness out of our schools and out of our military, and it's already out, and it's out of our society. We don't want it. Wokeness is trouble. Wokeness is bad. It's gone. It's gone. And we feel so much better for it, don't we? Don't we feel better? Our service members won't be activists and ideologues. They will be fighters and warriors. They will fight for our country. And Pete, congratulations. Secretary of Defense, congratulations. We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military. And our country will be woke no longer.
Well, you know, the American people hired Donald Trump to do a job, and I think he is not going to get fired anytime soon based on what I've seen. The way that he said we're woke no more, I think that resonates with the American people. He said we're going to define male and female as the two sexes in America, and that boys should not be competing in girls' sports. So
it was inspiring tonight. You know, the American people have been so beat down by senseless policies of the Biden administration, open borders, a foreign policy that lacks any sense of realism or rationality, a failing economy, forcing us to purchase oil from hostile foreign nations, shoving woke DEI, perverted policies down the throats of the American people, particularly children. President Trump is fighting back on every single front, and he's winning. And he's got a lot of victories to tout, which he talked about tonight. You know, I had high hopes coming into this speech, and he's surpassed all of them.
As a Navy man, I like my boats. And so does President Trump, as he discussed his initiatives to rebuild shipbuilding in the United States, with the Office of Strategic Shipbuilding in the White House.
To boost our defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding. And for that purpose, I am announcing tonight that we will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer special tax incentives to bring this industry home to America where it belongs. We used to make so many ships. We don't make them anymore very much, but we're going to make them very fast, very soon.
Representatives Rutherford and Van Orden, both Navy men themselves, certainly agreed with the president and stated that this was a step in the right direction.
Do you think that's going to be enough? And is it going to address the things that need to be done to be able to bring the Navy back up to speed?
Listen, I think it really will, because we need that focus back on shipbuilding. We have to bring that back home. We need American flag vessels, not just for the military, but for our merchant marines as well, to move so that we have a sea lift capacity that right now we quite frankly don't have. So I was glad to hear him say that. That's going to mean a lot to the Navy in my district.
Listen, man, I'm a retired Navy SEAL. I'll be honest, I've not spent a lot of time on ships. Navy SEALs normally fly. We take over the ship and then hand it over to actual sailors that know how to sail a boat. It's fantastic. Look, we have to have a strong Navy. Right now, the United States Navy has essentially given the Red Sea over to the Houthi rebels, and that's unacceptable. So we need to be able to project sea power in order to keep sea lanes open to ensure global trade. That's one of the core tasks of the United States Navy, and we're failing at it. So over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, they just let the Navy go to pot.
Part of President Trump's national security initiatives is also to establish space dominance with additional space ventures and to establish a Golden Dome missile defense system.
We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond. As Commander-in-Chief, my focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. As a first step, I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland, all made in the USA.
You heard towards the end of his speech talking about going to the moon, going to Mars. He talked about great strides in our science, technology, as well as space. And that's all very, very good news for me because we have jurisdiction in the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, which I'm chair of, over those, we have jurisdiction over those fields. And so I'm looking forward to a great 119th Congress, and hopefully we'll keep the majority in the midterms, and we'll keep this thing on into the 120th.
Well, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you being here. Is there anything in particular that you want to do with the Science Committee in the next couple of months, especially at the reconciliation or with the budget with the budget submissions that you'd like to see come out of your committee as you move forward?
Absolutely. Well, we have our goals, you know, and quite frankly, we've got to pass some legislation. We have to pass a NASA authorization bill. We haven't passed one since 2017. We've got to pass what we call a Commercial Space Act. We passed it out of the House last session, but it was dead on arrival under Chuck Schumer's leadership, and the Democrat had the majority over at the Senate. We want to get that passed because public-private partnerships are the key to success of our space program. And I will say this. It's a civilian space program, but it is so important. It's national security that we get back to the moon before our rivals, the Chinese, do. We don't want to get to the moon and see a sign written in Mandarin saying no trespassing. We have tons and tons of water ice there. We've got helium-3. We've got rare minerals that we can mine there. We need to get a sustainable presence. The last Trump administration, they passed Space Policy Directives 1, 2, and so on, and they established the goal of getting back to the moon, establishing a sustained presence there, and then going on to Mars. And this is right up our alley. We also want to continue to stimulate and excite and to get young people to go into STEM studies, engineering, science, math, all of those things that are going to keep us great in technological advances. And we also have jurisdiction over artificial intelligence, over quantum sciences, weather reporting. We have jurisdiction over NOAA, over fusion, energy research and development. Those are all the things that we have under our belt at the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, and we intend to use that, and it's going to be, as the President said, a new golden age for America, and I think the entire world has derived such great benefits from our American space program over the last 50 to 60 years. Almost on a daily, almost on an hourly basis, we use things that were developed in our space program. And so that's why when people say, oh, we don't need to spend money on space, yeah, we do. It is national security.
Other highlights of the president's speech included foreign trade, energy, and foreign conflicts. With a CBS poll showing that 76% of Americans approved of the president's speech, we wanted to ask some representatives what they're hearing from their constituents about national security.
President talking about drill, baby, drill. We start drilling now. So we'll see as we produce energy, the cost in goods and services will drop as a direct result of lower energy costs. But in addition to that, I think the security and safety of the nation, the way we've seen the drop in immigration, illegals coming to the country, there's just a lot of things that my constituents wanted to see. But making America affordable again and safe again, I think are two issues that he hit on tonight, and we're excited about that.
One of the remarkable things that's been discussed in the last couple of weeks is the Europeans talking increasingly about their increasing their defense spending. And we've talked about this in the United States for a long time in terms of burden sharing, and are the Europeans paying their fair share? Are you seeing what's happening with the United States and the Ukraine relationship having an effect on our relationship with NATO in terms of them looking at spending more on their own defense?
Yes. Listen, every member of NATO over a decade ago promised that they would spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense, and they didn't do it. So I've spoken to a lot of my European counterparts and said, imagine if you had kept your word. Imagine if you'd been spending at least 2% of your GDP on defense. Do you really think Russia would be in the place that they were in order to invade Ukraine? The answer is probably not. So they've publicly acknowledged that, and I think it's great that our European partners are standing up. I'm a very strong supporter of NATO, but you got to understand that NATO has to help defend itself, and we're not asking any European nation to do something they don't want to do. We're asking them to, we're not asking them to do anything they can't do. We're asking them to do something they don't want to do. But my dairy farmers in the state of Wisconsin are pretty damn tired for paying for Luxembourg's security without a reciprocal relationship from Luxembourg.
President Trump's address to Congress underscored his administration's national security agenda. From naval dominance and space operations to military recruiting and border security. Representatives had a lot of things to say about it, and that also underscored the deep divisions as to what the best path forward is for our national security. As always, our goal is to bring the latest national security policy decision shows, and we'll continue to track that and provide you that in-depth coverage. Again, this is FedNet TV's Defense Policy Show. I'm your host, Bob Carey. Thanks for watching.